The chapter starts as Diggory emerges from the bottom of this pool in the middle of the wood, and he's coming out of the water, but he's still dry. And he finds himself in this wood with bright green light coming through the treetops that are so leafy you can't see the sky through them, but you can just see this bright and warm daylight coming down green through the treetops. The wood is described as being perfectly still, and, quote, you could almost feel the trees growing. And there's a little clear pool every few yards, like the one that he just came out of. So that's what the place looks like. And then perhaps more importantly, there are a number of experiential features that characterize this place, at least as it's experienced this first time on their first visit here. The first and most notable experiential feature of their first visit here is this temporary forgetfulness. It says that if you had asked him where he had come from, he would have probably said something like, I've always been here, which ends up being very close to what Polly and he actually do say to each other a little bit later on. But anyway, and then secondly, I think it's implied that there's an experiential feature of something like contentedness that characterizes the place here. We specifically notice this by the absence of any strong feelings or drives, such as fear, excitement, curiosity, panic, regret, sadness. There are no felt needs here, no painful desire of any kind. The narrator doesn't use the word contentedness, but when you read the rest of the descriptions, you kind of feel that. And then later on, when Polly finally does end up speaking, the narrator describes her as speaking in a, quote, dreamy, contented kind of voice. So, on their first visit, these experiential features really seep into everything. Later on, toward the end of the chapter, the narrator makes a reference to the morning, and then he adds, quote, if it was a morning, it seems to be always the same time in the wood between the worlds. Similarly, here at the beginning of the chapter, the narrator says that it felt, quote, as if one had always been in that place and never been bored, although nothing had ever happened. As Diggory said long afterward, it's not the sort of place where things happen. The trees go on growing, that's all. And then later on, when they do finally begin talking to one another, both of them slowly begin to remember their prior life, but it's kind of like they're slowly remembering bits of some kind of distant portrait, or they're slowly coming to remember bits of some far-off dream. All right, so we'll get into that in a minute. But first, let's hit pause for a minute and let's talk a little bit about just the concept of this place with its various experiential and metaphysical features that make it so unique and memorable and give it such a unique quality to the characters and to the writer and to us as the readers. Why does this place feel so wonderful, so beautiful, so perfect, and in a funny way, maybe even a little bit